So I'll tell you a little bit about myself very, very quickly, a little bit about what I do today and what I've been doing for the last 10 years related to the startup ecosystem here in Israel. So I'm actually Israeli born, but actually raised in the States for most of my childhood and through my university years. I moved back to Israel briefly in the mid-90s, but then moved back to the States, I grew up in Boston, but then spent another 12 years in New York. My career, my education is in economics, finance, business, and I started my career actually in big corporate America, so very far from kind of the startup world. I did grow up in the kind of in the life science industry, so there was a lot of innovation, obviously, and I was able to like witness really the amazing processes of innovation and commercialization, primarily in big pharma, kind of supporting from the finance and business side. But after spending over 10 years in sort of the large corporations, when I decided to move back to Israel with my family 10 years ago, I also made the decision to switch over from kind of working in large organizations to seeing what it's like to work with, with the early stage ecosystem, early stage startups. And also I decided that I wanted to try to expand from primarily where I was mostly in financial management positions to kind of more broad leadership positions. So actually, my first role here in Israel was a very interesting and unique, I think, once in a lifetime opportunity. I established and ran for almost 7 years a nonprofit called Israel Brain Technologies. It was basically Israel's brain initiative. You obviously have heard of the Human Brain Project of the EU. You've heard of the Obama Brain Initiative. There are various brain initiatives around the world. We had a very little, tiny initiative here in Israel called IBT. It was championed by our late former president here in Israel, Shimon Peres. I'm sure many of you have heard of him. And he really had this vision to advance brain research and brain technology commercialization here in Israel. And when I heard about that, I thought it was the coolest vision in the world. And so I offered to join this initiative and found myself establishing an organization and running it. Our mission was to really create the Israeli brain technology ecosystem. So basically breaking down the silos between researchers, clinicians, entrepreneurs, investors, policymakers, and creating a tight-knit community around neuroscience and brain technologies in order to accelerate the innovation and commercialization in the space in Israel, but also to turn Israel into a leading and famous brain technology innovation hub on a global scale. So we ran various programs that brought together the community, from running international conferences that were very successful to running a startup accelerator, which basically supported Israeli startups developing various technologies for brain-related illnesses primarily. And it was really an amazing experience. It brought me very close to the Israeli startup ecosystem, obviously, albeit and mostly in one specific vertical, but I really got to know the community of investors, of entrepreneurs, and just lived sort of the startup nation environment. From there, I moved just under 3 years ago to Joy Ventures, where I am now. So I switched actually almost from one extreme to the other, moving from kind of a relatively always underfunded nonprofit to a resource rich investment organization. So at Joy Ventures, we are a startup studio. We build and support startups that are developing consumer products in the well-being space. So we believe very much in the opportunity and the growth of the wellness industry, and the fact that people are starting to be more proactive and more active in managing their their wellness, improving their lives, improving their lifestyles, finding new ways to, to feel good on a daily basis, and dealing with, the daily stresses of the modern life. So we're interested in technologies that can be made accessible to consumers in various formats, and we like technologies that can just create joyful and engaging experiences for people to help them reduce stress, improve their mood, and just improve their well-being more broadly. We're a young fund. We've made 5 investments. We have a very unique operating model, which is really tailored to be able to grow a very young, nascent category. So we're initially focused in Israel, but we already are making investments and supporting projects globally. The way we operate is we have currently 3 main pillars of activity. One is investing in existing startups and obviously supporting them along the way, providing value along the way. Another pillar is actually creating new ventures. So we work with entrepreneurs to generate new ideas and to start new ventures through various programs that we run. The most recent program that we launched is an entrepreneur in residence program, where we have experienced entrepreneurs coming in and sitting with us at Joy for a period of 6 to 8 months to develop new ideas and hopefully reach a point where they can pitch a new venture plan that we like, and hopefully we would invest and start a new company with them. And the third pillar is working closely with academia. We really believe in, especially here in Israel, but now more so globally, we believe in the potential of, the academic ecosystem. And I'm sure Evelyn will like what I have to say. We believe very much in, it's not the only way, but we believe very much in taking knowledge and research from academia and trying to translate and find ways to turn some of the things that are coming out of academia, turn those into products and companies. Those are obviously longer cycles. I'm sure Johan also has something to say about that, but certainly we want to invest in advancing technology development and research in academia, also to benefit our understanding of how we can influence wellness in ways that are effective and impactful for people. So those are the 3 main pillars. I think now might be a good time maybe to pause for any questions, anything that you're curious to hear more details on. I can speak a little bit about our portfolio companies or challenges, whatever might interest you guys and gals.
So you've seen this huge stretch. I'm curious to hear from you about these cultural differences. Right, this startup nation, the term's been coined. I've been in Israel. I feel like there's a lot of similarity between Israel and Silicon Valley. Both mark the end of our cultural belief system. Both live with a lot of uncertainty. Both are really good in community. Both have the best education. Both have some military. So I'm curious to hear from you.
Yeah, so I think you definitely pointed out a bunch of them. I think the one aspect that I really do feel very strongly about is relates to your point about community, and I'll take it to say access and accessibility. So I think, and that's something that I know maybe is actually a little bit different from Silicon Valley, although I've never lived there, and I've never lived sort of the Valley sort of startup ecosystem or experience. So I can't compare. But one thing that is really unique here is that because we are such a small country, small community, everything is quite accessible. So what I always encourage young entrepreneurs is to just reach out, go out, not be afraid to try to connect with people in various levels, and not be intimidated, because it's there's something about both the small nature of the community, but it's also a community that is very keen to support one another and to help one another. So and even if you like, basically in Israel, you're always sort of like 1 or 2 degrees from anyone. So it's like really easy to to just like get an introduction, or if you want to do research at a hospital, or you want to get to a particular investor, it's very easy to reach that person through a personal introduction. So that's one thing that I think is really unique, and I really love about Israel, because I'm very much a people person. I'm a social person, so I like that this community embraces the connections and kind of open door approach to like helping entrepreneurs. That's one thing that specifically that I really love.
Nice. Sarge, you had a question.
Yeah, Miri, I was wondering, so in the US, some things are regulated, be it devices, things you eat and so forth. What is the regulation reality in Miri, in Israel, and you want to tell us a little bit about that? I'm just curious about, yeah.
Well, first of all, as you can imagine, most, if not all, Israeli startups are not really concerned with the Israeli market, because it's such a small market. So for the most part, Israeli startups they're usually approaching, in many cases, the US market. Obviously, it usually goes hand in hand at some point also with EU. But a lot of people just tend to, very quickly obtain, once they've got the approvals in the States or in the EU, naturally, I think it quite easily, they receive the approval locally, and they many times will not get they won't even pursue the local approvals before they go for the big market. So I'm not deeply familiar with with the actual regulation and whether it's closer to one country or another in terms of the the pathways and processes, but yeah, the challenges are always in the big markets.
More questions, Martin. Eveline. Go ahead, Eveline.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, for sure. I'm very much into the translation of knowledge as well, especially knowledge that's related to technology on one hand and humanities on the other. So I'm quite interested in how you detect who are the people or the startups that you, and how the processes are that you are furthering with and work with.
Great question. So we have several, I would say, channels or processes across the organization to try to identify, the innovation and the companies. So if I start with academia, we basically both have like a push and pull process. So we have an annual call for proposals where we run a grant program where we actually publish a call for proposals within so we define obviously our, the areas that we're interested in. By the way, we're also very much kind of at the intersection. We believe that the, consumer products for well-being are very much at the intersection of sort of human, I don't know if humanities is the word, but something about the human experience and human-centered products together, married with technology. So, but anyway, you can see on our website, there's like a call for proposals for this annual grant program that we run. And that is kind of like a, an invitation to the global community to interact with us and to submit their proposals. In parallel, we also are very proactive, and we do a lot of desktop research and mapping of the various research and researchers that are out there in our space. We have an analyst that works on this all the time, mapping, you know, by certain keywords that are of interest to us, looking for publications and IP, and trying to see who are the most promising innovators in the space that we could potentially collaborate with. And then we sometimes will, you know, not sometimes, but we do proactively reach out to people and introduce ourselves and let them know what we're interested in doing, and seeing whether there's an opportunity to maybe think about something that we can develop together, or they already have some technology that could be, you know, relevant for commercialization, basically. So that's on the academic side. On the startup side, of course, then there's the in-between, which is kind of, you know, we try to attract, you know, entrepreneurs, innovators out there who are interested in starting something. Either they have an idea or they don't have an idea, and it's pretty much just in constant outreach. And then we just try to, you know, bring in the people that we think are the best fit, both in terms of working with us culturally, their passion for the space, their experience in entrepreneurship, that kind of thing. And then in terms of actual companies, you know, it's also, there's obviously many companies that come to us, but we also, since it's a very young space, we're very proactive in searching for companies around the world. And so, yeah, we do our own outreach, and how we ultimately choose companies. You know, we have our criteria that are important to us. We look very much like you know, there's some things that are very generic to investors around, you know, making sure that there's a stellar team, you know, making sure that the idea is obviously, you know, novel, innovative, protectable, etc. And then there are things that are specific to our scope, our mandate, which is around the wellness. So looking for making sure that it's a product that we believe is going to be a, you know, a very meaningful consumer product that can have a meaningful, you know, impact on how people feel and on their wellness. So that's, and we like that aspect to be somehow grounded in science. So it can be, you know, based on some kind of known methodology, you know. So for example, we have a product that does biofeedback in a really cool way. So we believe in biofeedback. So that, you know, gives us confidence that you know, that the product will be effective. And we sometimes even look at companies who've already done, you know, like efficacy studies to prove that that the products are making a difference in their, you know, in their users' lives. I hope that answers your question.
You said earlier that you also would like to share a little about your portfolio. I'm actually curious.
Sure. So we have 5 companies in our portfolio currently. 4 of them in Israel, 1 in the UK, and a couple of investments in the pipeline, new investments in the pipeline, hopefully to close in the next couple of months. The first company is the biofeedback company that I was telling you about. It's a hand-holdable orb that is like a smart textile biofeedback device that you can take with you anywhere, and it helps you kind of take a moment to relax, to kind of become aware of your emotional state, and focus on, you know, breathing and relaxation. It gives you visual feedback. It's a really cool experience. It's called Reflect. It's still in very early days, so kind of advanced prototype, still kind of testing initial tests in the market. We have another company called Sangha that's developing kind of a next generation meditation app. Can't say too much about it, but it's going to be something different. We have a company called Nix, which is developing a wearable headset for sleep. So it uses closed loop non-invasive brain stimulation to bring on faster sleep onset, and the later days hopefully will also help us kind of optimize our sleep cycles while we sleep. We have another company that's called Doppel. Well, they're called now, the product is called Doppel, the company is called Empathic Technologies. They're based in the UK, and they're developing a wrist wearable that uses haptics to basically kind of it helps to calm or to focus using a heartbeat-like rhythm in vibration that helps people, either depending on sort of the speed of the vibration, helps people either relax or focus. And we have V, which is a voice-powered AI fitness or running coach. Really cool app that gives you like real-time personalized training routines and experience.
Nice spectrum. When you look into the wristband, the wearables, is this something that wants to be its own product, or is this a company that actually builds and strives to later be acquired by, I don't know, Garmin or Apple or Samsung?
There isn't necessarily, I think, an end game just yet, but certainly there's openness to various form factors in all our products. So we try to understand what the value is that the product or technology brings to the user, and then seeing like what can be, the best way to incorporate that technology into people's lives. So if there's going to be a way to have something incorporated into as like an add-on to an Apple Watch or a Garmin watch, or if there's a way to wear something as a necklace as opposed to attaching it to our shirts or whatever, then we can try to play with, with different form factors or partnerships. But there isn't necessarily like an end game of, yes, we want to be acquired by, a specific
I'm just curious
player.
because it's very hard to get into market. Xiaomi is, I think, with Xiaomi, the #1 in the world, and there's Apple and Garmin. They're big players.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Martin, go ahead.
Yes, you said you are in the wellness area. So you use this term for a special reason, or you are going also in the health area?
So that the separation that we make is that we focus on like the generally healthy population in terms of our target audience. So we don't invest in companies that are that their sort of long-term vision is medical, medical technologies or technologies that are targeting like diagnosed populations as their overall strategy. We are open very much to seeing how medical technologies may be, adapted into more consumer technologies, because, for example, there are some things that are being developed today coming from the world of neuroscience that maybe initially are, I don't know, maybe focusing, for example, on cognitive decline for the elderly. And maybe there's something in that technology that can be made relevant for cognitive enhancement among, younger ages. So we try to think always about like what technologies can be brought to the masses, to the sort of generally normative, healthy masses, and less of, so we're trying to the extent possible, avoid, regulatory, heavy regulatory processes, or, we don't want to focus on specific like pathologies or illnesses, let's say.
Miri, tell us, are you trying or have you tried any of the products? Do they work? Do they?
Of course I have. If I could take you on a tour of our office, I'd show you that we even have what we call a joy jungle, which is our experimentation room where we have a lot of products, not only the ones that we've invested in, but many products that are on the market today, so that we can learn on our own, and so that people, the entrepreneurs that are working here can all understand what it's like to experience these different products, tell us what works, not only whether it works or not, but whether it's a fun experience. For example, the Nix, most of our products are still not in the market. They're still not, the development is not even finished yet. So, believe me, I went to sleep. We all was passed around the sleep headset in recent months. Took them home. That is a very early prototype. I didn't sleep the entire night because I had this, this heavy headset on my head. It's, it's nowhere near being a consumer friendly design just yet. But I was testing whether it was actually, whether I was getting a good read of my brain activity, and that actually worked really well. So, they've been able to prove that, that this thing can sit on your head and read your brain activity and make sense of your brain state, or your sleep state. But yeah, there's certainly some that are already, you can say that they're starting to work. The biofeedback one, Reflect is a really nice way to actually put your phone down and do something that's sort of like no screen, hold something soft, cuddle with something soft for a minute and relax and take a break. So I really like that one. And
I'm willing to be a beta tester if you need anyone in the US, seriously. But I have another quick question.
We do. We're running tests all the time. So if you follow our page, you'll see our announcements about the opportunities to participate in our various studies.
So another quick question, if I may, Nikki. This issue of the virus, how much has that forced companies to be like, oh, now we need something that, how much has the virus impacted companies or not, or how they change their product? Can you speak to that, please, or their business model, et cetera?
Sure. At a company level, there certainly has been impact, like in our portfolio's case, for example, some of the studies have been harder to conduct because it's been harder to, interact with participants, harder to deliver, products to people's homes sometimes. Sometimes there's shipping issues. If we're trying to manufacture some of these prototypes and the parts are coming from, East Asia. So yeah, there have been some logistic issues with some of the activities. I would say at the sector level, I think there's actually been a bright side because, we've always been trying to kind of educate the market and educate the ecosystem about what a great opportunity this consumer wellness, category is. And I think now the situation really speaks for itself because everyone's sensing the stress, the anxiety, the loneliness, the social isolation, all the things that in the past we said were important, issues or unmet needs that we can address with innovation and startups. And now it's like, every other day I'm being invited to an interview by like leading media outlets to talk about, what we're doing to solve all the sort of emotional well-being, negative impacts of COVID. So I think for the category, it's raised a lot of awareness. I'm hoping that also will drive, an acceleration in innovation and entrepreneurship in the space.
Oh, so you're really at a sweet spot, aren't you?
Sadly, and yeah. It's kind of got to have mixed emotions about that because you wish there didn't need to be this global pandemic, right, to like make that happen. But in a way, yeah, it kind of put us in the spotlight in an unexpected way.
Thank you. What is the URL, by the way? Is it joyventures.com or?
Indeed.
Have you heard of Beta, the retail store in the United States?
Which store?
Beta. It's B-A and T-A.
Beta store?
Yes.
I don't think so.
I can
What do they
connect you
do?
with these guys. Well, they offer early stage hardware shelf experience, and they
Okay.
turn every customer interaction into data. So they monitor how long do customers look at the product, do they understand the product, how much are they willing to pay, and then forth, how much explanation does it need, is it market fit?
Oh, excellent.
And they have about 20 stores.
Yeah,
They actually just purchased Toys R Us, and they're going
oh,
to
wow.
reopen Toys R Us. Yeah, I can
I
connect
remember
you
being
with
very
them.
depressed when I heard that. Wasn't Toys R Us like
FO
going out of
Sports.
business?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. That was a while back. I remember being sad when I heard about that.
Well, I have another question. In which states are startups interesting for you?
So we don't have a limit in either way. I mean, we like to invest, like our sweet spot's probably on the earlier side and writing, you know, initial checks of like $500,000 to $1 million. But we also plan, we're long-term investors, we're strategic investors. We plan to continue with follow-on investments and to really stay along the companies for the long term. So so we do follow-on investments, and we've done a couple already this year for our existing portfolio, and we've made investments as big as $5-6 million. So it's a range.
What is the earliest state? What is possible?
So like really pre-seed, I mean, moment, you know, we're working with these entrepreneurs to start new companies. So day one, we can, when they actually form a company, you know, it can be in the, you know, several $100,000. We usually do milestone-based investments, but, you know, we work with, we also have different projects that we fund at the level of even before companies are established. So we have like, we give out product development or product concept development budgets. Like we can, if someone comes up with a really good idea and they say, I want, you know, I need some initial funding to just do like a, I don't know, a prototype, but we don't know yet if, you know, we want to start a company, we want to just maybe develop a prototype, or we need a budget for some like initial testing of a concept. We can also, you know, give $50,000 or $100,000 to try to accelerate an idea even before it becomes a company.
Because I have
we're very open to these types of collaborations with both with individuals and with organizations. So we know how to work with academia. We know how to work with individuals around the world. We're very flexible. Did
you do some business in Austria already?
No, but I did go to Ars Electronica, and it was one of my favorite experiences of all time. I think that is just, you know, I wish I could go back there every year because actually our Reflect, this biofeedback device presented there a couple of years ago as part of one of the exhibitions, and it was just, it was mind-blowing. But anyway, we haven't done anything with Austria yet. Other than visiting ours. And yeah, we'd love to meet people who are, you know, interested in this space and interested in collaborating in any way.
Okay, because I have two startups in mind. One of them is or has developed an span for tremor, and he's censoring if the people are shaking. So actually, it has two applications. One is for the private person at home to the self-control, and the other one is a medicine product for the doctors in the hospital for Parkinson. So as both way. And this is one startup, maybe it's interesting for you. And the other one is in a really, really early stage. He has developed a skin for people who has lost the hand, for example, and you can put it on the prothese, and so you get a feedback for feeling and touching things. So
yeah, so that, for example, is a super interesting technology, which maybe, you know, with some kind of like ideation session or brainstorm, we can think maybe there's a use case for, you know, creating some kind of experience that is not only relevant for people who are, you know, who are missing, you know, an arm or. So those are the kinds of things that we like to do. We like to see if there's a way to, you know, if they're really cool technologies that maybe they have a new use case in our space.
Okay, thank you. Evelyn is asked, I think.
Well, I was just waiting until you're ready.
You're also polite. If you were Israelis, you'd all be talking at the same time. That's
We
the other
can
thing
if
I
you'd like
forgot to
us.
say about the Israeli ecosystem.
Miri, we can. I'm Lebanese, so, and I will talk a lot and go like this too.
And use your hands.
The screen is too small for his big
I will
hands.
mute everyone to make sure everything can talk.
Well, okay, thank you very much. Happy to hear for sure that you're interested in Ars Electronica. That was one of my favorite things as well, to reach out for them, as arts are always on this interface of the new future and looking into technologies and experimenting with that. And that's quite interesting for me as well. And, or let's say the core point why this collaboration is so much interesting for me as well from the scientific part of view. And I was just wondering, on one hand, I wanted to invite all of you to participate in Ars Electronica this year, because most of Ars Electronica currently recently is planned to be virtual. So it's much more easy to contribute, to be part of it. It's in more than 120 nations and more than 200 organizations.
When is it this year? I remember it was in September. Is it still?
In early September, from 9th to 13th, I will post.
Okay, so it's around the corner.
Yeah, it's right on the corner, and it might be quite interesting as well, just to look into a little bit what's going on and get some ideas. And the other thing is, I'm connected to people from a patient portal in, I think it is one in Portugal mainly, but it is about patient innovation, which is related to where people are suffering from some certain needs that are not faced right now from companies or startups. You know, and that could be actually a quite nice collaboration where you're seeing there are needs and how to work with that further and ideate from there on, or probably as well build a relationship to concrete people that might be of value for you. So I'm aiming to at least put the link for the person into the chat so that you can make the connection and probably come back to you related to that.
Okay.
Because what I'm mainly looking into is not just the product, and that's probably as well a question related to you. What you are considered product, I'm more working on the processes and to think of how can the processes be as smart as possible that they are probably working without of me afterwards. Then that's good.
Got it.
Nice. A lot of ongoing connections happening here. And yes, participate at the Ars Electronica. I'm also doing something together with Eveline. I'm excited.
Miri, what can we do to help you? Is there anything we can do?
Thank you. That's very, very kind. I really just, you know, if you know anyone in your various, you know, networks that you think is doing something that's relevant to what I've described, either in academia or, you know, in industry, either has a startup or has some sort of maybe some kind of like a service or anything that can help us do a better job of, you know, finding ideas, supporting entrepreneurs, testing products, anyone you know in the wellness space. Happy to be introduced. I think that's, you know, and of course, if you have any ideas for specific, you know, technologies, startups, happy to talk. But thank you for offering help. And I see a new face. I apologize. I don't know when you got on, Marcus, but hello and thank you for joining. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Hello, I am so sorry to have joined so late. It's appalling of me. So I'm speaking from London, England, and at this one time I got the hour wrong. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. It happens to all of us.
It's just terrible. I apologize so much.
So Miri,
No worries.
this is a growing community, and sometimes speakers turn into regulars.
And the
Marcus
good
will be
news
your
is that
friend.
we're being recorded, right? So
Yes.
everyone can watch it for many times again.
Miri, thank you so much for taking time, for saying yes to something with a lot of uncertainty, what you're actually admitting to signing up for.
That's exactly what, what we're in the business of, right? In innovation and startups and all that is just one, one big uncertain adventure. So we can't say no, right? We have to take the risk.
I enjoyed that conversation a lot.
And it's always fun to meet people from all over, all over the planet. You never know when, when a meaningful connection will be born. So it's an honor. I appreciate that you invited me, and I hope this was interesting, or that you learned maybe something new. And please feel free to reach out. My email is miri@joyventures.com if you have any questions, follow-ups, and of course, if you ever physically plan to come to this part of the planet, please get in touch, and I'll be happy to meet you in person.
Definitely will, once tours to Tel Aviv are possible again. Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Have a great
Take care, everybody.
Goodbye.
Good health to all. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.